I'm Don Bonte, the sweet potato breeder at the LSU Ag Center. About 15 years ago, we decided, you know what, why don't we try something different? You see all these beautiful ornamentals in the cities and containers and home gardens, and we're like, why don't we also make them edible? So we do that combination thing. And so we went through tens of thousands of selections, and we came up with a series of 5 different ornamental edibles, and these constitute our Treasure Island series. All different kinds of foliage types. So we've got the chartreuse, dark purple foliage, nice palmate, finger-like leaves, and then we also have different kinds of storage roots. We have the purple, orange, white flesh. So we got lots of different combinations in that 5 different plant series. Now what's neat about sweet potatoes is we don't think about it much, but you can actually eat the foliage of sweet potatoes. And what we find is a very common food in Asian as well as African cultures to actually harvest the leaves and use those in salads. So you can, I'm going to just pull off, usually obviously you want to use those nice tender new leaves that have just opened up and come out. And oh my gosh, you can see how that just makes a beautiful addition to any type of salad that you may prepare. So just some gorgeous color. It's not just roughage, it also has a very high lutein content. So not only is it beautiful in your salad, it also has really good nutrition to it also. So real excited about that. You can also think about sweet potatoes as a part of some type of a stir-fry dish. So taking again these nice young tender shoots, taking those off, and those can absolutely be put into some type of a stir-fry preparation. Beautiful color as well as really a nice texture as well as good nutrition with the lutein. Don't worry, you can keep pulling and clipping and pulling those leaves off for your salad. It's not going to hurt that plant. It's amazing how much foliage is produced on sweet potato. So it'll all come back very well, and also you're going to find that it doesn't really impact the storage roots much at all because there's just so much of an overload of foliage produced. It really doesn't impact that storage root formation. When we actually propagate our sweet potatoes, we actually take a cutting. And this cutting has no roots on it. And what we do is we actually take these lower leaves, pop those off, and what you're going to find out is that right at each one of these little nodes is you're going to have root primordia. And this is going to actually take hold and actually establish. So we're going to take this, put it in a pot with some soil, and this plant is going to look like it's dead. It's going to look horrible for a couple days, but eventually those little root primordia are going to take off, and that plant will all of a sudden stand up tall and take off like crazy. Just showed you in the last greenhouse how we just took a simple cutting, put it in some soil, and it's like, okay, that's crazy. It shouldn't grow, it shouldn't live. But you know what? Wait 7 to 10 days later, and you know what? All of a sudden you're going to find that that cutting, oh my gosh, produces a large mass of roots. It's amazing. And if I break that all apart, you're going to see where this is developing from those nodes that I talked about. So we have those leaf axes where the roots form, and they do an exceptional job of rooting. So just after 10 days or so, you have something that looks like this. Now you got 2 options. If this thing is really, if you get this at the store and it's packed full of roots and you have to almost tug it out of that pot, out of that container, what you can do is that you can just break it off. Sounds crazy, but, and then what I do is I always like to pull a couple of the leaves off, dig a nice hole in your pot, and stick it in. And you know what? Like I said, it's going to look horrible for a couple days. Water it well for that first 7 to 10 days, and it'll take off so nicely. That's going to be your best option for getting a good looking root. A lot of times we will have a pot where we just don't have a lot of roots growing. You know what? That's just perfectly fine. I always like to kind of knock off that soil, and oh my gosh, you can see on this particular plant where those roots are coming out right at that node where that leaf used to be. absolutely perfect. And all these little white roots have the potential of becoming a storage root. So this is a perfect case where you can just open up that soil, pop it in, cover it up. And again, I always like to get a couple new fresh nodes. So this is a node right where the leaf is. So bury it a little deeper than what you would kind of think you should. And then that's going to give you your best results. Now I got to tell you, when we put them in container pots, we don't get the best root shape. It's a nice soft loose soil, and sweet potato likes a little bit more structure to form the best shaped roots. So we're going to go out to the field and we'll show you how to go about planting them there, and that's going to be your best option if you're looking for nice looking storage roots. Well, my favorite place to put out sweet potatoes is in the field. You're going to get your best shape, and you know what? You got two options. You can just take this pot and dig it nice, get you a nice big deep hole. And remember what I told you earlier is that we're wanting to put in fresh nodes. So I'm going to break this all apart. I don't like all these little roots here. And we're going to put in fresh nodes. So we're going to bury down this plant to at least cover these two nodes, so that when we get those new nodes produced, they're going to give us the best shaped roots. So the soil's getting kind of wet and it's a little bit tough, but you know what? I think I'm going to be able to get down there. Yeah, so that's all you have to do. Now it's going to look kind of rough for a couple days, but you know what? It's going to come back very nicely. Water for that first 7 to 10 days. That's something that's always so helpful with establishing sweet potatoes. And also, sweet potatoes are a lot like tomatoes. If you over-fertilize, you're going to get a mass of foliage and absolutely no storage roots. Whereas in tomato, you don't get any fruit. So watch the fertilizer. They actually are very, very good at producing without much fertilizer at all. So again, that option B is to take that cutting that has that we've actually have no roots on. I'm going to do the same kind of procedure, and I'm just going to break that off and just break off a couple of those leaves like this. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes, so that's a really nice amount of nodes, and I'm going to just go ahead and bury that. Now that plant, because there's no roots on it right now, it's going to look rough for a few days, but it'll pop right back up, and it's amazing how quickly they recover. Now you notice I planted those about 1 foot apart. That's the normal spacing that we do in the industry. So in your garden, that's absolutely the right thing to be doing. And you know what, I'm going to go ahead and plant another one here. And you come back and you're going to see a nice flush of foliage just like you see in this plant right here. It was planted a couple weeks ago. We went through tens of thousands of seedlings to discover those 5 plants that we now have in our Treasure Island series. We never stop. We're always trying to find that next best one that produces great looking storage roots, delicious flavor, as well as that unique canopy that you're going to really love in your garden. So this is this year's 21 selections, and so we have thousands of these that we're going to evaluate, not only for how well they look as a foliage, but also, do they form a storage root? That's a long way off. We're still going to be looking at that this fall, and hopefully we'll find some that do both, have that great canopy as well as a good storage root.